Well, I've made good progress on the Glenfield 30. I disassembled the whole thing, got it all cleaned up. It's good and clean inside. I got all of that weird varnishy stuff off of it and got it clean and looking good. It blackened up real nicely after I got all the schmoo off of it. Looks like I still have a little bit more cleaning to do out here by the muzzle, but I can take care of that. Got the tube over here all cleaned up, wiped the spring off, got the cap going and all that. Everything came apart real easy. The gun appears to be in really good condition. I don't think it was used very much. And after having it apart and looking at everything, I don't think that it was refinished. I think it's just that's the way that it was polished out. And got it lubed up real good. We'll probably have to wipe some of the excess off there. I just lubed it up pretty good, and I haven't tightened everything up yet. These screws that hold the bottom metal in are still kind of loose because I haven't put the stock back on yet, which that's one of the next things to do. But learned a lot about how it works and how it goes together. So hey, I can take apart a 336 style rifle now, and you can see there's still just a little splotchiness there. That's still just a little bit more of whatever that stuff was that was on it. I don't know if it's like True Oil or one of those things that they used to use on gun stocks, and they got it in places where it shouldn't have been, or what it is. But it's very similar to the stuff that was on my Krag when I got it. But lacquer thinner takes it off. It just takes some rubbing. And if you look in the first video, you'll see that there was some splotchiness on the top of the receiver from it too. I just wiped it real good with lacquer thinner, and it came off and went away. So I can probably, you can see that splotchiness right there on the bottom. I'll show you. I'll use a nice white patch here, just a standard 2-inch round Pro Shot patch, and some thinner. And if you just do a lot of wiping on it, you'll see that it'll come off a brown color on the patch. See that? That's that stuff coming off there. And of course, this is going to take the little bit of oil that had went back on the surface after I cleaned it the first time. But I think that when there's that stuff on these rifles, it just takes time to get it all wiped off. It doesn't hurt anything being on there. It's just a little bit of an eyesore. And I really don't know what it is. If somebody wipes their guns with some kind of stuff that gets hard and polymerizes like that over time and stays on there, I really don't know. But it doesn't look like there's any of it on the stock, which is weird. I don't fully understand what that goo is, but it does come off with this type of a solvent. But I spared everybody all the tedious watching of me taking the gun apart and putting it back together. I'm sure a lot of you have had these apart before. I guess if there's enough interest and people want to see me take it apart, I could do it pretty easily now, but it's probably no fun to watch me learning how to do it. Kind of like when I was first trying to figure out how to take that magazine tube off there. I'm sure that makes for some pretty bad viewing, watching me fumble through trying to figure it out. So now we got that cleaned off. If I go back at it with something with a little bit of, like always, you drop something and it goes under the bench. There's a cap off the edge red, but you wipe a little bit more on here to get some oil-based product back on it. It'll blacken back up again. Now you see that splotchiness is gone because I got that stuff off of there. So now it looks like it's still a little bit back here. I didn't get it all, but I got most of it. So I'm sure I'll have this thing back apart again when I think I probably will at some point work on the stock and fix the little finish problems that are on it. It looks like and maybe it is the same stuff. Maybe they did rub it on the stock too, but if you look here on the butt pads, you get this stuff that just flakes off there. I don't know if that's the same stuff or not, or if that's something different. That might be the same stuff that I'm wiping off the rest of the gun. but you can see that on this stock, the finish is around where that lower tang is kind of flaked away, and it's gotten a couple of marks here. So I don't know what I'll do with this. I think I'm just going to put it back together and shoot it for a bit. I want to see if I like the scout scope on it, and I don't know if I'll do something different with this stock, or if you look there, there's like a run in the finish. So I don't know if stuff had been wiped on this over the top of what was originally there. I just don't know, but maybe that's how they were finished. I'm not real sure. Maybe the stuff that was on it has always been on it, and it was there from the beginning. I don't know, but you can see a little bit of that is kind of flaked a little there on those edges, because whatever this finish is, it's just setting on the top of the wood. It didn't really penetrate much at all, so it wouldn't be at all hard to get it off of there and put something else on. But as Georgia Boy said, this is just like a birch hardwood stock. It's going to be goofy colored regardless what you do. I think a lot of times the factories sprayed a color coat on them to give them some sort of character, and if you take that off, it's just going to be super plain and kind of blonde in appearance and kind of look goofy. But I could probably do something with it, but I think for now I'm just going to let it go. But let's go ahead and put the buttstock back on this. Say I cleaned it up real good internally. I took the whole thing apart, cleaned it up real good. It's probably got a little bit too much lube in it right now, but I wanted to get it lubricated and run it a little bit, and kind of, so some of this extra that's on the side of the hammer and stuff here, I'll just kind of mop that up a little bit. And then where the screw goes, I need to kind of clean if you can see if I'm in view here. It's so hard to tell if you're in view on these things. Clean out in here. There we go. And then here's the stock screw. I'll just put a little bit of grease in the threads and just to protect it. The stock screw through the tang was the only thing that had any resistance at all, and it appeared to be just gunk that had gotten in around the head. It wasn't the threads that were binding. It was like friction between the head and the recessed hole in the tang. But let's go ahead and you can see that start to tighten. I don't know if that screw's got a little bit of a burr on it. Feels like it. It's just the edge of the slot. That shouldn't hold it up. Let's go ahead and run that in there before I even put the stock on. I think that's the bit I was using. Yep. Just run that in and see how it feels. Yeah, that feels fine now. It was just a little bit. Oh, it started to tense up there a little. Maybe it is the threads. Yeah, I don't see anything on the threads to worry about. Let's blow that hole out a little bit just to make sure. We use some brake cleaner on that. I'll trap this in the rag so I don't get it all over everything. I don't see anything at all with those threads that concerns me. But let's just yeah, I thought the friction that I was feeling was up around the head of the screw, but maybe I'm wrong. The other thing is too is the geometry of this is gonna, let's put a little bit of gun oil on that. I thought it was binding up around the head of the screw rather than and down. We'll just, it feels like it's getting better. Yeah, I think it just had a little bit of a bind there. Maybe a small burr or something. It feels like it's coming out. It's turning fine. It's just got a lot of breakout torque, but I guess it won't come loose if that's the case. It looks like I can see parts moving as I turn this. Maybe that head is not exactly concentric with the shaft of the screw. And that's not binding there, so that's okay. I think it's going to work fine. We'll just have that ready to go. Let's get a clean towel here. Actually, I had since I blasted that off, let's wipe it with a little bit of oil because the brake cleaner blasted everything off of it. And a more dry one and just get any extra off. Okay, there's that. So I said I left this screw loose and this screw loose and this screw loose. As a matter of fact, I could probably take a little bit more off them. Wrong bit. Just so this can kind of float a little bit when I slip the stock in there. That one's got a little bit of a bind on it because that goes through the trigger, or excuse me, goes through the hammer. Okay. And this all looks pretty good. Let's just slide that on. It feels pretty good. Let's go ahead and set that back in the gun vise. And I'll move the sandbag off to the side. Move some of these other parts and tools out of the way. Eventually I'm going to have to dive under the bench and find my cap for my solvent. Alright, I'll try to make sure I get this in view here for the next parts of what we're doing. Oh yeah, that's pretty good. That's kind of disturbing. Alright. Yeah, that's going in fine now. That looks like the geometry. Once it spread the two tangs out, it seems to have taken the bind off the screw. Okay, that's starting to snug. Let's go to this one up here in the front, which used a different bit. I need to get my GoPro Hero back on the tripod. Instead, I'm filming with the telephone right now, which I like the camera on the telephone better, and I like the microphone system on the telephone better than the GoPro. The challenge is that I can't see. I don't have a monitor. I should either figure out a way to have a monitor that I can look up at, or go back to using the GoPro. I used to use the GoPro with an older iPhone that was a spare, and unfortunately that one's got the old battery swelling issue, so I've kind of decommissioned it. Maybe I can get a new battery for it and get that taken care of, but I should probably get back at that, because it's a lot easier to check the composition of the shot, if you will, if I have a monitor to look at. But when I film over at my bench, I can use the computer and the camera right from the computer, and then I can see what I'm doing. This one I have to look every once in a while at the phone. But I think that iPhone is a better camera than all of my other cameras. It's just not as convenient. I like to take the bit out of the screwdriver and put the bit in the slot, because sometimes it seems like if you're trying to do this, you poke at things. If you just got this little short thing, it's a little easier to get that started, it seems like. Click. That's the right torque. Let's do this front screw. I see, I'm just not as confident getting it in the middle that way. That's right in the middle now. Okay. Okay, that's good. So now I think we're all good with our fasteners. We can put a little bit of, let's do that side one over here. That's a good fit on that screw. It's not, I'd like it to be a little wider, but I don't have one that fits the slot that's closer to the full width, but that feels real good. I didn't take those two screws out. Those are the far end of the other screws. I did have the gate screw out, but I already torqued that down and used some Loctite on that, so that's all set. So now this, make sure this one that goes through the hammer is all set. I don't think I got that quite in the middle. Let's hope my head's not in the shot. Probably is. Probably blocking the view with the bill of my hat or something. Okay, the lever screw there. Lever screw. Lever screw, that's like some kind of compound machine, a lever screw. There, that feels good. Awesome, that feels pretty good. So let's, now that I got everything tight, it does have just a little bit of a notchiness when you come into that, when it first gets that first click, maybe that'll wear in, but you come out of there and then that initial set the hammer back is, yeah, I think that's looking good. And it's, say it's still got a lot of fingerprintiness on there from the stuff, but I did get the vast majority of that nasty brown stuff off of there, and that's all cleaned up. So I think the next thing here to think about is to see if we can get those two front receiver screws out. See if I have a bit that's going to work well on those. If you remember in the couple videos ago, I did put some penetrant on there to try to make sure that those would come loose. Ooh, that's a good fit. So I think what I'll do first though is let's just make sure we get any schmoo that's in there out. Yeah, there's some gunk in that. You know, I cleaned everything up there, but still seems like you always have a little bit of screw slots are hard to get the gunk out of. It's a little edge red there, and use my brush a little bit. Apologize if I'm getting my head in the view. It's hard to not lean in front of the camera. I think that's pretty good. Now let's hope that let's hope that comes out okay. So I really don't want to have to drill those out. I'm going to push down pretty good, and I'm going to do the old, oh, it's not even tight. It's not even tight at all. I was going to say I was going to do the old torque loose, torque tight at the same time so it didn't pop and my screwdriver fly out of there or something, but that one was a cakewalk. It'd be just marvelous if the second one was that good. I suppose they probably don't have anything to tighten up against. It's hollow beneath there. As a matter of fact, when I looked at the online instructions for mounting the scope base, they cautioned to not get any Loctite down in there and Loctite the thing closed. All right, well, let's clean the bit off here and hope that the second one comes out that easy. At least this receiver is flat-sided. If I had to extract a screw that wouldn't come out, this one wouldn't be a bad one to clamp in a drill press vise. It's fine. It's not tight at all. Awesome. Gotta love that when stuff works. So let's clean out that hole too. I think that's going to work pretty good. So now let's see if these screws that they gave us with the mount will actually work. It's nice that they gave me some blue Loctite, but I already have some of this generic Ultra Tight 121, which that might be the same. Looks like the same tube. So these are the two rear ones right here. Yep, that starts in there real nicely. And let's see if we got, I think that one still might be the same screw. Yep, that's the right one right there. So I think what's beneath there is right now the bolt, but it's down a ways. Let's drop it down just a little bit. Yep, you can see the bolt come back. That far the bolt's clear now. The front, I don't know if it's the top of the barrel that you see under the front hole where the barrel's screwed into the receiver, but in the rear hole you can see the bolt. That's down a good amount. how much are we projecting through here? Oh yeah, that's definitely not going to interfere. That looks fine. Groovy. All right, so the next thing is this dovetail, this little dovetail base. I don't know which side's the wide side and which side's the narrow side. It has to slide into here, and if it doesn't, then I have to thin it. Which it feels like it's definitely going to need some thinning. Doesn't want to start in there. I don't think it'll start from either side. So that's going to take, they did make this with little ridges on either side, so it should be pretty easy to thin it with a file until it'll start in the dovetail. Yeah, the videos all say to thin this with the file until it'll go just shy of halfway or just about halfway. I think it might be symmetrical. I think I'll get a caliper real quick and measure that. Okay, well I went and got some calipers, but I see that we're well into this video. I should probably break this up. Before I stop this video, let's go ahead and see if this thing appears to be symmetrical or not. It's about 370 on this end. Yep. And it's about 370 on that end. So it is symmetrical. So the next step will be to thin this dovetail mount, this pillar mount, I guess they call it, until it slides into the dovetail and goes roughly halfway, and then tap it in to be centered. But we'll start on that on a different video because this one's getting too long. Thanks everybody for watching.